Wonderment is a feeling of surprise and admiration, one that arouses our curiosity. It's a feeling that results from an encounter with something overwhelmingly beautiful and unfamiliar, unexpected or inexplicable. Wonderment is inspiration. Inspiration to explore, to excel, and to amaze. For the plant healer and for the culture shifter, wonder is the inspiration for a deep dive into what ails our bodies and our spirits, what ails our societies and our environment, and for the artful designing and applying of ever more effective renovations and remedies. It isn't just our desire to ease suffering that attracts most of us to things like herbalism or activism, nature and self-growth. And any income from our work is generally too scant to even be a factor. In most instances, wonderment was a key catalyst for our embrace of this study and field, an irresistible fascination and love. Wonder excites a level of amazement and inquiry bordering on obsession. It's what moves us to weave and wander, plant drunk through fields of herbs. It's what leads us to experiment with the effects of a dizzying number of alternatives in the creation of our specially tailored medicines, or to daily work on addressing cultural and ecological health and justice. These days, the word wonderful is used to mean something's pleasurably great, but originally, wonderful was meant to describe a thing actually filling us full of wonder. Since earliest history, people have gathered together collections of natural, culturally, or scientifically significant objects, including pressed and dried plants. They sometimes did so to tangibly catalog the edible and the medicinal resources that were around them. But other times, it was just as teaching aids for handing down information that's vital to the community, vital to the future generations. Almost always, the act of gathering was a true passion as well. Collections are generally united around a theme or a discipline, with each element linked, showcasing the similarities in the forms of different species and phyla, in related functions or artistic design. Or conversely, a collection can be an association of oddities linked only by their rarity or their unusualness, their expansive variety a testament to the inherent interconnectedness and interrelatedness of all things. There was once a time of true interdisciplinary studies and eclectic practices that were fed by multiple fountains of tradition. For all the screwed up shit that can be attributed to the Renaissance and the Victorian periods for that matter, they nonetheless proved to be the ferment for students of Greek odes and of biological evolution, of the fine arts and the medicinal qualities of herbs. Being called a Renaissance man or woman today still indicates that one's considered to have an unusually extensive range of interests and pursuits, of knowledge or abilities. Civilization, with both its relative benefits and its intrinsic harms, it had experienced at least a 300-year span in which research and study held its own appeal apart from its practical uses. A time when someone who could afford it pursued knowledge for knowledge's sake alone, and even peasants were trading large amounts of grain for just a few used books as literacy slowly spread from the cities to the countryside. It was then that certain curious minds, nobles and merchants mostly, set aside vast rooms solely for the display of the incredible things that they collected on their sojourns through the forest or their travels around the world. The wonderful spaces of such collections were sometimes called Imaginariums, fueling the vivid human imagination. The most common three ingredients of such exhibitions were naturalia, the products of nature; those of humankind, the artificialia and artefacta. Sometimes added to this mix were the scientifica, things that were created by people to investigate or measure natural conditions and phenomena such as telescopes and kaleidoscopes, curiously animated clocks, complex astrolabes and automatons, microscopes, and balance beam mineral scales. Framed plant medicines usually hung next to a shadow box of ancient arrowheads, and plant fossils could be displayed below equally evocative forced etchings. A selection of fine paintings was likely hung next to shelves of archaic musical instruments, animal skulls, preserved flowers, and seed pod mandalas. Not yet was the full breakup between folk understandings and scientific methodologies. A breakup between research and spirit or mythos, the known or predictable and the unknown and mysterious, and between knowledge and wonder. Thus, in the 1500s, we begin to see what came to be appropriately called cabinets of curiosity, or cabinets of wonder, with the original meaning of cabinet being just a dedicated space rather than a particular piece of furniture. In German, the term was Kunstkammer, meaning an art chamber, or Wunderkammer, a wonder chamber. Combined were both physical examples and also representational art that was emblematic of natural and human histories, of botany and geology, of archaeology and ethnography, and including herbariums and ancient fossils, medical ephemera, antiquities and religious icons, all a rousing theater and a doorway to the world. These early framed collections were the pursuits of some of the great rulers, including Rudolph II, the Holy Roman Emperor at the close of the 16th century, the Grand Duke of Tuscany, Francesco I, Frederick III of Denmark, and the ever-inquisitive Peter the Great of Russia. In the case of the Habsburg Imperial Collection, such cabinets were often served up as grand displays to impress and to wow foreign dignitaries and selected distinguished guests. It was intending to impress them with the intellect and the taste, the influence and the reach of the well-positioned collector. The acquisition and maintenance of such large collections could, of course, be way too expensive for all but the most wealthy and the privileged. And yet, they also resulted in bringing the very concept to the society writ large. Little mini collections sprung up in upper middle class homes in emulation of the most famous exhibitions, so much so that in some circles it became expected that anyone with demonstrable intelligence and taste would have a sitting room somewhere in their house surrounded by the artifacts of travel and inquiry. As late as the Edwardian age, it was still not uncommon for parlors to include Wunderkammer display cabinets made of precious woods and filled with fascinating items, or for otherwise urbane housewives to be found pressing plants between wooden boards to be added to their exciting home collections. Many of the historic cabinets of wonder were the seeds from which incredible public museums then grew, offering their tales and delights to all who cared to enter. And far from being exclusive and insular, cabinets of curiosities provided the material for informed discussion and for publication, for new investigations, new art forms, and new disciplines. One example of interest to herbalists especially is the collection of the English physician collector Sir Hans Sloane way back in the 1700s. He was a member of the Royal College of Physicians and the founder of the British Museum. He began collecting plants while studying medicine as a young man in France and later in England, Then, as a doctor for a West Indies fleet that was traveling to Jamaica, where he spent a full year gathering and cataloging the native plants, the animals, the cultural curiosities, all the amazing things that he found there. Hans brought back with him over 800 dried plant specimens, each mounted on special paper in what became an 8-volume herbarium, a collection that would subsequently swell with the contributions of other naturalists from all around the world. Putting together your own cabinet of curiosity can be a great experience for you. The joyous activity of orchestrating a growing assortment of wonders, of types and themes, shapes and colors. A simple set of dedicated shelves can do for any budding display. These are not places for storage after all, but they're stages. The stages for bringing each item's story to life. You know how paintings can awaken in a viewer some deep feelings and even ways of seeing that can aid them and sometimes impact our kind. And so, too, can even the most inert and contained collections awaken and broaden the collector's or the observer's mind, provoking exploration and investigation, bringing to light previously unseen patterns, even suggesting new possibilities and alternative paths for us to chance. My own Wunderkammer is housed in a fairly simple oaken display cabinet. It features glass shelves so that the light from the LEDs can pass down through each of the shelves to the lowest levels. Uppermost of these is a spread of rocks and minerals, mostly from the volcano-sculpted canyon, but with some special finds from far from here, such as Georgia crystals or Arizona agate. Sitting next to my pockmarked crimson lava rock, all of them nestled against tiny spiraling fossil shells from when this mountainous region was host to a vast inland sea. This represents for me the earthen foundation, a sense of belonging, and the power of grounding. Just below these are the ancient artifacts that I found scattered about near my home or else secreted in the cracks of its pink and purple cliffs. Things both sacred and utilitarian. Items fashioned by the prayerful Mogollon peoples who resided here up until around 1100 years ago, including sherds of pottery with intricate designs painted on them, stone bowls with remnant corn cobs, metates for grinding seeds into flour, even painted arrows with wild turkey fletching, and a single yucca fiber sandal, a sandal that revealed itself in the exact moment when I doubted my ability to walk in their purposed footsteps. It's my constant reminder, this cabinet, my reminder of the spiritual dimensions of life and healing, and it's proven impossible for any visitor to look at these things without sensing the hands that made them and the people's spirits still animating this hallowed place. Pine cones share another section. Share it with Achoya cactus's trippy skeletal latticework, with tied bunches of pastel herbs and the gleaming skulls of bear and javelina, deer and fox, elk antler and a pronghorn antelope's horn, strands of green bearded lichen. The very bottom of this case contains an odd assortment of antiques from the 1800s and from the early 1900s that I either found or traded for. And these sit alongside my family's personal heirlooms, such as a hand-carved child's train and a stuffed dog with button eyes that were my grandmother's little playthings, the tiny booties that I wore in the first week after my birth, and the medals and ribbons I earned for bugging my mother to let me attend a military school with harsh, driven European instructors. It's in the cabinet's very center, however, that I hoard many of my healing-related ephemera. Things such as an array of sparkling old bottles that once held herbal remedies and tonics in them, vintage mortars and pestles made of wood, jade, and brass, and even a sterling silver sewing kit advertising Lydia Pinkham's renowned botanical cures. What better way to feel a part of a lineage of hopes and healings stretching from the manifest past to our paths right now? Our collections are so much more than decoration. They can serve us as studies and references that can inform our practices, that express and celebrate our most intense interests. It can encourage our enchantments. A cabinet of curiosity is a lovely way for you to sustain those enlivening feelings of awe and fascination, a veritable treasure chest of valuable evocation and suggestion, and further stimulus for your ever-expectant state of wonder. Venture and savor.